Have you ever had one of those brilliant light bulb ideas and thought, hey, could this actually become something real? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. We're going to follow the map that takes a simple thought and turns it into a genuine, maybe even world-changing invention. Let's dive in.
So let's start with the million-dollar question. Where do great inventions really come from? You know this story we always hear. It's a lone genius in a lab, a sudden flash of inspiration, or a complete and total accident. But what if that's not the whole story? Not even close.
You know, there's actually a name for that popular story, the black box theory. It basically treats invention like some kind of mysterious, magical process that we can't really understand. A perfect example is Febreze. Seriously, it was discovered because scientists who were working on something totally different stumbled onto a compound that just happened to be amazing at zapping odors. A complete, happy accident. But is that really all it is? Just getting lucky? The truth is, while a little bit of luck never hurts, invention is so much more of a structured, accessible process than most of us think. And we're about to break that process down step by step. Okay, so to really bust this myth wide open, we've got to make sure we're all speaking the same language. We hear the words creativity, innovation, and invention thrown around all the time, right? Sometimes people use them like they're the same thing, but they're not. They are three very distinct and very crucial stages on the road from an idea to actual impact.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with creativity. Just think of this as the initial spark. It's that incredible human ability to come up with an original idea, seemingly out of nowhere, to connect two totally unrelated things and just ask, what if? At this stage, it's just a thought, a possibility that no one's ever seen before.
So, from that creative spark, we move on to innovation. This is where an idea gets its hands dirty in the real world. See, innovation isn't about creating something from scratch. It's about taking something that's already out there and making it a whole lot better. Think about the first safety razor. Shaving wasn't a new idea, but this was a brilliant innovation on the super dangerous straight razor. The value it added, well, not cutting your face up. Pretty important. And that brings us to the final destination, invention. This isn't just a step forward. It's a massive leap. An invention isn't just an improvement. It's a revolution. It's something so fundamentally new that it can create an entirely new market out of thin air. To stick with our example, the electric razor. That was an invention. It didn't just make shaving better, it created a whole new category of product.
So let's just look at them side by side real quick to lock it in. Creativity, that's the original thought. Innovation, that's adding new value to something that already exists. And invention, that's creating something truly, fundamentally new. See the progression? It goes from a thought to an improvement to a full-blown revolution.
Okay, now that we've got the landscape all mapped out, let's get to the fun part. How do you actually generate these kinds of ideas? This isn't about sitting around waiting for a lightning bolt to strike. No, it's about having the right tools in your toolkit.
One of the most powerful tools out there is design thinking, and the absolute genius of this process is that it doesn't start with your cool idea, it starts with people. You begin by empathizing, by truly, deeply feeling a user's problem. Only after you've done that do you try to define it, brainstorm solutions, build a rough prototype, and test it out. It's a cycle that puts real human needs right at the center of everything.
Another fantastic tool is the 6 thinking hats method. It's designed for superstructured brainstorming. It's so clever because it separates our thinking into 6 distinct roles. By having everyone in the room metaphorically put on a different colored hat, you make sure every single angle gets covered. From the purely factual white hat to the cautious black hat, you get a full 360-degree view of the problem without all the arguments.
So, let's say you've got a really promising idea. You've used these tools, you've refined it, but how does it survive the brutal journey from your notebook to the actual marketplace? That's what we're going to map out next, the full journey to making a real-world impact.
First, let's look at the internal journey an idea takes inside your head. It starts with preparation. You just immerse yourself in the problem. Then comes incubation, where you step back and let your subconscious mind chew on it for a while. And here is the absolute key. That famous aha moment of insight, that's only step 3. It's not the end of the line, it's the midpoint. It has to be followed by a hard, critical evaluation and then elaboration, the actual hard work of building the thing.
So once your invention is built and out in the world, it faces a whole new journey, adoption.
The Rogers adoption curve here shows us how different groups in society tend to embrace a new idea over time. First, you get the risk takers, the innovators, then the trend-setting early adopters. And eventually, you get to the big groups, the majority, and finally, the super change-resistant laggards.
But there's a catch. A huge, massive catch. Right between those visionary early adopters and the much more practical early majority, there's a giant hole. And this is the place where most great ideas go to die.
It's called the diffusion chasm, and here's why it's so incredibly dangerous. Your early adopters, they love new things. They're excited by potential, and they're willing to forgive a few flaws. But the early majority, they are way more pragmatic. They don't want potential. They want a proven, complete, reliable solution. And failing to bridge that huge gap in expectations is the #1 reason truly great inventions never go mainstream.
This is it. This is the big one, isn't it? How do you build a bridge across that terrifying chasm to get from a few passionate fans to true mass-market success? Well, luckily for us, there's a proven strategy.
It all starts with something called a minimum viable product, or an MVP. Now, this is not your perfect, polished, final version. Not at all. It's a version with just enough features to be useful to those very first customers. Its main purpose isn't to sell millions of units. Its purpose is to start a conversation and, most importantly, start learning from real users.
The MVP is just the first piece of an incredibly powerful feedback loop. Build, measure, learn. You build the MVP, you measure how people are actually using it and what they think, then you learn from that data to make your next decision. Do you need to pivot your idea, or do you persevere on the current path? This constant cycle is the engine that actually helps you navigate your way across the chasm.
So there you have it. We went from the myth of the black box, the happy accident, to a structured, repeatable map. The journey from a simple idea to a real invention isn't about one single moment of magic. It's a process of understanding, creating, testing, and adapting. Now you have the map. The only question left is, what problem are you going to solve first?